Welcome to episode 13 of Psycho Pass. Last time we got some backstory on Yayoi, so I don't know if we're gonna stay in flashback this time and learn about some of the other characters, or if we're gonna cut back to the present and check up on Akane after her traumatic situation. I'm honestly fine either way, because I really like the show, so whatever it does, I trust that it'll be pretty good. So we're going to watch and discuss. I've got the subtitles and the timer on screen if you want to follow along that way, or you can pull up the episode on the side, but we're starting after any logos. Let's get into it. In 3, 2, 1, play. We're beginning with something that's gotten worse. Okay. Still good, but it has gone up. And they'll have to report it even for old Ginoza. Keep the stress under control. Like what? Try Sudoku. Talk to someone you're close to. Does he have people that he's close to? No girlfriend. Well, I have a dad. But, issues there. Okay. So we get some Ginoza focus. Cool. So we're back in the present, but I don't know how much this episode is going to focus on him. But for now, it seems like we are taking this time to still further focus on some other characters before getting back into the main stuff, which is fine. So yeah, I can always show my everything to you. If you enjoy these videos, subscribe to the channel. Psycho Pass comes out on Wednesdays with other videos every single day of the week. Also check out the description down below for links to Twitter and Discord, where you can come hang out, and Patreon if you want to support this channel. Get these videos early. Get vlogs and polls and all that stuff. Thank you so much. Love these colors. This part is absurdly catchy. After I heard it for the first time in the last episode, I was saying that one line like over and over again. that one part was stuck in my head. I really like the visuals here, though. Alright, whoa. Hell of a Rubik's Cube. Invitation from the Abyss. Yeah, she's the only one who witnessed this firsthand. But they can basically confirm. She's looking for ways to blame Akane rather than blame the system. His coefficient was low as fuck, and then it was 0. You couldn't judge him. Yeah. But at a significant cost in certain ways. Yeah, and that's not exactly beneficial. Sure. I actually did question that at the very beginning of the show. Right. Very brave new worldy without decision making and prioritizing happiness, their version of happiness over knowledge and truth and agency. Without it being measured. The guy, the teacher guy. Yeah. Yeah, this whole time they didn't even know about this. So he was also like that. He couldn't be judged. But you brought him in anyway and didn't publicize it. 1 out of 2 million. Damn. Because you brought him in anyway. Which is good that they did bring him in anyway, because obviously he was committing the crimes. But yeah, they're like, we can't let people know the system doesn't work sometimes. So as long as you take the initiative to bring Makishima in anyway, then that's all good. But obviously the system has these flaws. Need to be worked out. It did. It did. That's the public image, yes. Okay, well, hopefully one of them doubts it then. Saying, don't question, don't doubt. That'll spread like a virus. We'll get people losing faith in the system, and we can't have that. Although, she is correct in that, like, that could be a big issue. Like, the more and more people start losing faith in the system and this spreads throughout society, it could be too much too fast. If too many people all at once just go crazy. Okay, so we have the orders to go get him. Okay, cool. Heart of Darkness. It's a weird question, Akane. No, he wasn't reading it. He's just looking at it. It's good to be back in the present, getting some updates on Akane. Yeah, she's gotta feel pretty terrible. I mean, it's not that it didn't work properly. I mean, not really, other than just outwitting you with wits, but not like a secret trick to fool the Dominator, I don't think. Yeah, she's very good at handling the stress, of course. She knows the mission. She knows what she has to do, and she wants to get the guy. I didn't know if she'd just hole up in her room for a while, depressed. But no. She's doing what must be done. Yeah, he does. That's good. A photo fit picture? Alright, sure, let's do that. He looks very villainous. Yeah, she's gotta live through it again, but I guess she's willing to do it. If that's what it takes to help the case, she's gonna do it. And of course, people have to worry about that. That's really harsh. That sucks, like, because that's a helpful thing to do. But most people would avoid doing it because of the danger to your psychopaths. I mean, of course, just general trauma too, but some people might be willing to do it and put up with it if it was just that, but then the danger to your hue makes people not want to do this thing that would be helpful. But she'll be okay. She's the she's the clear blue hue person or whatever. So she's willing to go through that again. But yeah, that blurry image you have, take that and just apply like the most villainous version you can think of to it. But not like big tough evil villain guy with like a big scar on his face, like Griffith villain. Okay, she's willing to do that. What matters is catching him, not my crime coefficient. Pretty confident that she'll be okay, but either way, she's willing to risk it. To get the job done. Good for you. Okay, let's see how she reacts. And how they react to seeing it. So just go through all of her memories. And there you go. It's pretty brutal seeing all of it again. Shit. I think he is actually voiced by Griffith's voice actor, by the way. It was rough, but it did work, and her psychopath is fine. Yeah, that's real low. Okay. It couldn't help but go off to go up. She's not like the most perfect person in the world. But it didn't go up that much, and it is recovering quickly. She's very good. That's the one, like she said, that's the thing she's got going for her. So, there you go. This is true. And there you go. We've got his face. That's a start. And they know that he was there. Yep, it's all connected. And there's that other guy from the drone factory or whatever. Still waiting for the return of that one guy who hid behind the tree in episode 2. Our true ultimate villain. Yep, hi. I guess we get it confirmed now, right? Nice. She's just real good. Why would you ask him? How the fuck would he know? Why did you ask her, you dumbass? Of course, they're not on very close terms. She isn't afraid of it. All right. A strong belief, a strong foundation. But of course, she will take risks. Like in episode 1, she wouldn't just have the random victim girl killed. Yeah. Gotta be pretty jarring to transition to that. I would imagine so. People who were brought up in it is one thing, but to switch to it after knowing the other way, he just resented that too much, and his psychopath went up. There we go. We get the confirmation. He was like, you stayed anyway. We paid for that. You didn't even like it. But I mean, obviously there's some level where he still wants to do good and do detective work. Yeah. The very introduction of this system caused people's psychopaths to go up. The introduction of the psychopaths itself. Because they couldn't adjust to it. So what happens when somebody who's very loyal to it, like Ginoza, does start to question it more? If he encounters Makishima and points that gun and it says you can't fire, what happens then? Is he gonna start questioning? And then you gotta watch that number. Can't let that shit get too clouded. Are we done? That went by pretty quick, as usual with this show, but that's okay. Well then, let's talk about that. But wait, no, there's a tiny little after credits. What is she looking for or at? What's happening? There's Makishima. Okay. So clearly she knows him. Is that like his mom? Anyway, let's talk about it. All right, episode 13. We're back in the present after the flashback last time. It feels a little weird to just have that one episode of flashback in there, because I was like, okay, we're interrupting what's going on in the present before getting into some high-stakes endgame material with some flashback, and that's fine. It was a good episode. I still enjoyed it, finding out more about Yayoi and seeing more of the system in action. But I thought maybe we would get more episodes of flashbacks for some of the other characters, or something like that. And then at the beginning of this episode, when they were talking about Ginoza and his coefficient going up, I thought we might get sole focus or heavy focus on him. But we do go back to Akane and the main thing going on, which is good. Feels a little weird that it was just that one episode break in between, with Yayoi, of all people, getting so much focus. But it still works. I still think it kind of feels good pacing-wise to have that little break between Akane's traumatic incident and seeing what happened after the fact and then her having to relive it. I think it was nice having that one episode little break in there. But if we do get anything more like that, any big backstories for people like Kagari or whoever, I don't know when those will take place, but either way, I was on board for whatever, flashback or being in the present, and I think we got a good amount of focus on different characters and different things, and it was nice to see Akane back doing what she does, and all this focus on her, and how well she's doing. We've seen how good she is at keeping her coefficient, her psychopaths, under control, and I didn't think this would throw her into latent criminal territory or anything like that, but I was wondering, how would she take it? Will she spend some time just kind of sulking and being depressed, not necessarily having her coefficient go way up, but spending some time kind of out of it and not being fully herself? But she has gotten back into the swing of things pretty quickly. Obviously, she's very upset about this whole situation, but she is the kind of person who deals with this kind of stuff extremely well, and so she is focused on the right things that she needs to be focused on. She's like, I need to go back to doing the job. We need to get this Makishima person, and I'm going to do what it takes. I'm going to have this thing go on in my brain that will read my memories so that they can see what Makishima's face looks like. Which is a really cool thing that you can do, but it is messed up because it makes you relive these traumatic moments that you might not want to. Even disregarding the whole Sybil system psychopaths thing, just in general, you might not want to relive those moments, and that can definitely stop people from voluntarily doing something like that. But then when you introduce the whole crime coefficient thing, then people would really object to it because, I mean, they might consider themselves lucky for surviving a traumatic experience like that and not having their hue massively affected. But then to experience it again with a genuine risk of being labeled a latent criminal because of what it'll do to your brain. So that system in place could make people not want to participate in this, which would be a bad thing because then you don't get the information that you want out of it, because it's very good for getting information. You can just look through their memories and see exactly what happened, and they see it all, and we get Makishima's face. But she does it. Her hue is clear as day. It goes up a little bit. I like that she's not like perfect, absolutely. It doesn't just like not change. It goes up, but it doesn't go up a crazy amount, and it does go back down quickly. She recovers quickly. She stays focused, and she calms herself back down. And so all the conversations surrounding her, like at the beginning with Ginoza and the woman, I don't even know if we've gotten her name yet, or between Ginoza and Masaoka at the end, were really good. And this woman is clearly trying to, she's heavily in favor of the system. At first trying to say, is it possible that the fault is with her rather than with the system? And then when, of course, he goes over everything, Dominator was working perfectly, we got it all figured out, and the problem was not on Akane's end, which is really cool for Ginoza to defend her that way. They've had their issues, but he's not going to just be a dick for absolutely no reason. He understands what's happening here. But to talk about kind of keeping the public in order, making the system seem perfect. It's not entirely perfect on its own, but the public needs to think that it is. And I really like that she brings up the human element, because that's something that I addressed, I think, in episode 1 at the very beginning of the series. Like, why do you even need the humans there holding the Dominators? Why not make it a fully automated process? And I had a whole discussion about that. I came to my own conclusions and gave my own answers to that. So I'm really glad that they actually addressed that in the show too. And what she says there makes sense. She says those elements are needed to really fill in the tiny little cracks in the system and make it perfect. And that it's also like a public image thing, having them on the ground, having actual people out there would definitely be a comforting idea for people to see. And just this sign, these people that you can look to and see, that's the system working right there, and they see that. And getting this information that the guy who was responsible for Sasayama's death 3 years ago actually was captured this whole time. And we didn't know, and they didn't know, because he actually had the same thing called criminally asymptomatic, where they have these criminal tendencies, but their scan just doesn't show for whatever reason, because they're similar to Akane when they just like completely firmly believe in what they're doing, I guess. And it reads as nothing being wrong as far as it seems so far. But yeah, like if Kogami found out about that, I don't even know, but Ginoza's like, what the hell, you had him the whole time. And so he had the same thing. They couldn't ordinary methods, so they just captured him and did it off the record. And it's good to know that they're willing to do that rather than just being like, okay, we point the Dominator, it says we can't do it, so I guess we'll go home. Like, they captured him because they knew, yeah, he did it, so that's good. But they had to keep it quiet because you can't have people knowing that something like that can happen. And she's like, well, that doesn't mean the system isn't perfect. That doesn't show a flaw in the system. It does. It doesn't show that flaw to the public because you hit it, but there are flaws there, for sure. But yeah, I really enjoyed that, and being told for Ginoza to talk to his father because he's got some issues with his coefficient going up a little bit. And that's Masaoka, which was not surprising. It seemed like that's where it was headed. There was a chance that it wouldn't be the case, but for the most part, it seemed like it was going to be him, for reasons that I've talked about before. So that's good to get that confirmation. I like the way it was revealed there, and that conversation they had. And this whole thing, this whole life, this society, being brought up in it is one thing, and just being told this is how it is, learning how to do it, how to use the dominators and all this stuff, that's all one thing, but coming from an old way of life into this would be so much more difficult. So for somebody like him, being told, oh, you got this talking gun now, and you don't even really have to do much, you just kind of point, it tells you to kill him, and then you just do it, that'd be really hard to adjust to and accept. And so he had a hard time doing that, to the point where it made him a latent criminal, and he eventually kind of calmed down and accepted it. By the time that happened, it was already too late. And that sucks that the very implementation of this whole psychopath thing was enough to make some people's psychopaths go up. There's so many things like that just seem so absurd when you really think about it. But of course, Ginoza has these issues with him because of the way him and his mom were treated because of his dad. And he has a good line in there when he says, like, if you didn't even like the detective work, why did you stick with it and put all of that on me and mom? But clearly, like, he does enjoy being a detective. It's what he wanted to do. That's what he was. He may have hated these changes, but I think he probably still wanted to be able to do detective work and do good and help people. But yeah, I really like that. We'll see how that goes with Ginoza's coefficient going up. I can definitely see him becoming an enforcer or something like that happening. It seems like where we're going with him, he was the straight-laced guy at the beginning, follow the system, be completely normal and looking down on enforcers and very against your psychopaths getting out of control and becoming one. And now we see he's having some issues with that. And so I think the perfect character arc for him would be becoming an enforcer, seeing that the system, or if, for all I know, by the end of this, they'll do away with that whole structure. I don't know. But at the very least, seeing that the system is heavily flawed and being a major player in helping to change that in some way, maybe by encountering Makishima himself and having a similar kind of experience to Akane, where he sees that and his coefficient will most likely go up, where he'll actually be standing at the end of the series. What that'll mean for him, I don't know, but it'll definitely go up later. It seems like that's where we're headed. Like I said during the reaction, very heavy Brave New World vibes, which has been the case for the whole time, and that's just a very classic dystopian type story, so a lot of these types of stories draw influence from it, but I just got very specific vibes from this episode where they're talking about prioritizing this view of happiness over things like decision-making and agency and knowing the full truth. It reminded me of that book. But yeah, this woman also has some kind of personal connection to Makishima. She knows him in some way, so first thought is just that he would be her son. I guess I just think that because of like the whitish hair on her, but she's an old woman, so that doesn't really mean anything. Could be her son, could just be someone she's encountered in some way in the past, but she knows him and has something there going on. And yeah, just the conversation about Akane at the end was good too, and talking about why she's so the way that she is, and just fully like accepting the ways that things are and believing in her actions, while not just being a total pushover and just like, oh, this is how things are, cannot object, cannot question, must go with the flow. We saw that as early as episode 1 with her refusing to kill that random victim girl. She was like, what the hell? Why would I'm not going to lethally eliminate this poor woman. And she stopped Kogami. She made her own decision there. And I really want to see where Akane will end up and where the society will end up at the end of this season or the end of the show or whatever. You could think like they could be building to Akane eventually being corrupted, eventually having her coefficient go up, but I think it's being pretty heavily established that it's just not gonna happen. They could be setting it up to really make you think that and make it seem like she's this totally pure person and she's got it under control, just to eventually have something so horrible happen that it finally does exceed normal levels. But I don't think so. I think it's basically establishing that that is going to be the main thing for her character going forward. She is not going to have a clouded hue. And I mean, she was willing to risk it. She's pretty confident in that ability, but she was going to have this memory scan thing. if she becomes an enforcer, then so be it, because what she's focused on is the right thing, doing the job, understanding what she needs to do, going after Makishima, so she was willing to do that, to take those risks, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, Makishima put her through this whole test in order to show her the issues with the Sybil system. He probably didn't fully expect the kind of response from her that she has given. Like, clearly she'll understand these flaws more and more so as the series goes on and work towards fixing them, I'm sure. But he probably expected this to kind of break her more than it did. And I think she's going to show, like, through this determination, this willpower of hers, that she has the better way of going about things. Like, she'll understand where Makishima's coming from, probably, and acknowledge the flaws with the system, but work to fix them in better ways, which is basically what they're saying her entire shtick is, that she acknowledges and accepts the way things are, but also is willing to take risks. So she won't just become a terrorist murderer, she'll acknowledge that this is how things are to keep her psychopaths clear, while also working to change things and do better. And I think it'll show that that's like the kind of middle ground that you need, rather than just accepting it fully or being a Makishima anarchist. You can be in a healthier middle area, which is where she'll probably fall. And I don't know where the system will be at by the end of this whole thing. Of course, there are multiple seasons, so I don't think the Sybil system is just shut down at the end of this season. So what will they actually do? How will they work on changing it and reforming it? I don't know. But that's cool, because a lot of stories like this, you just expect them to end with, like, the system is destroyed, happy ending. Like Minority Report, I think it does end that way, like they cancel that whole system once it's proved faulty. That's usually how these things go a lot of the time. But if they want to focus on a middle ground of staying within the system for now and just finding ways to fix it and ways to do better, then that could be interesting, because she does have a good point, the old woman lady, when she's talking about doubt spreading through the people, and that could be an issue, you know, if everyone just finds out all at once that the Sybil system has all these issues, or the Sybil system was somehow destroyed all at once, like, that would just be chaos. Like, everybody, this is the society that they know, to just take it away or reveal this crazy shit about it all throughout society all at once could cause so much chaos that might not even be worth it. So you might have to figure out a more tactical approach for that. But yeah, it's just interesting with the view of happiness that is talked about, which is what I talked about from the beginning of the show. Like, it seemed like this society was prioritizing the happiness of as many people as possible, and the people who don't fit into that, like, main group of people, the few outliers that are around the edges, well, they're just kind of fucked entirely. And that's basically what she goes into here. Like, this society prioritizes the happiness of more people than any ever before. And that's an interesting discussion to have. That's what they value. Like, no matter the means to get there, no matter the cost, if they're happy, then so be it. Regardless of if they're allowed to really make their own decisions and be their own people, and if they have to live under this kind of society, she finds it to be worth it for just general happiness. And she says about Toma, or whatever the old killer was, and about Makishima, what matters the most is that they will not be able to hurt anyone anymore. She's like, even if the system had those little flaws in there, we still got them, or we still got him, and we're gonna get Makishima. And what matters is that they won't be able to hurt anyone anymore. So she sees it as a good thing for people's happiness, regardless of what it took to get to that. And of course, you could argue against that and say that it's not worth that kind of thing, and that that's not true happiness, and that this is not the best thing for people. It's interesting, because you can totally see how people could have this kind of mindset to want something like this to come up. But then you can also completely bring up all the counterpoints against it and point out why it's a bad idea. I can't wait to see where we go. This was kind of just checking in on how they all are now with Akane and Ginoza, how all that plays out, and what we do by the end of this. If this was just a one-season show, like, I'd be way more curious about the ending. But I know it goes on further. But I also know that people don't like Season 2 as much, so I'm still hoping for, like, a really good ending to Season 1. So I don't know. I don't know how open-ended it'll be, how big the finale is going to be, how game-changing it'll be, or if it's kind of just open to lead into sequels. I'm really not sure, but I'm excited to see where it goes. And yeah, let me know your thoughts on this episode down in the comments below. We can talk about it some more. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel. Check out the description down there too for all those links. Really appreciate it, and I will see you next time.